Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-hosts Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What is happening, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain. That is Coach Kenny Simpson. Coach, it's been a wild weekend. Thanksgiving's on the horizon. Guess we'll let you talk about your game.
Yeah, man, I may be a little mellow this episode. Our season ended, Friday, and man, I'm not disappointed in our kids in one bit. I thought we played our tails off, and football's a tough sport. There's a lot of things as a coach when you lose a game the way we did that you want to go back and redo, and all the different things you could have done differently. And so we're going to be talking about that today. Ways to improve, because I felt like I let our kids down. When you lose a game by one score as a coach, there's always something you could have done different in my mind. And so in my mind is always, what can I have done differently to give us an opportunity? I thought we did a lot of things really, really well. Our played number 2 in the state. They're going to have a good chance to win it. Probably the best defense I've seen in a while. They're very, very good, very well coached. So we pulled every trick, every old man trick I had out of the bag, and ran stuff we hadn't shown in ever, and stuff we hadn't shown in multiple years to kind of use their aggression against them, and scrounged out 21 points. We hit a 99-yard touchdown pass with 3 minutes to go that I thought was going to probably be the winner. And then, man, they did a great job of kind of converting, going down the field and scoring, and it wasn't meant to be. So we lost 24-21. I hope that team, Elkins, goes and wins it all. They're a classy program and play football the right way. And, I didn't like them a whole lot Friday, but I respect them. I think they do a good job up there, and would love another chance at them, but that's not the way it's not the way the game goes. So
that's right. We don't get we're going to fives, huh?
Yeah, we wish it was, but you don't wish it was when you win those types of games. And last year we won a lot of those. I think we won 6 one-score games last year. This year we're 0-2 in one-score games. So you kind of come back to the mean, usually the way football kind of goes. But proud of our kids, man. It was a great year for our kids. And a week or two from now, I probably won't be back to normal until everyone's done playing. When they're done playing, then I can look back and kind of really enjoy. Our kids went 33-5, senior group did, and did a lot of things that no one thought we could do. So very proud of them. And we'll talk today about now you look at how do you get better, because the goal is not to be the same. It's to be better than you were last year.
Yeah, it's always a tough one when season comes to the end. And, I was talking a little bit before we hit record here, and the week before, I've been kind of going to some games at a local team here that I've kind of kept my eyes on over the years, but it seems like that first round was, everybody I knew was winning by, it was all running clocks at halftime, and it was a bunch of 2-3 games, which you kind of expected to be closer, but it does. The whatever format we're using down here, it tends to work. Those second and third and beyond, all those games are amazing games. If you sneak in as a fourth, that kind of you get a shot, but man, it's hard to go win a game. Most of those were running clocks at halftime. So, man, kudos to you on another really long, good season. I know it stinks going out second round of the playoffs or whatever this was, but man, y'all been there a lot. So I have no doubt it'll continue when the next one comes back around. I know it's hard to look at that right now and look to the future. This is your son's last game, right? He's a senior this year. So I'm sure that's a tough one for the dad version of Kenny Simpson, but I've appreciated watching from afar and learning all the time. So good stuff there, man. I lost my script. There it is. Before we go on any further, let's go ahead and just knock out our quote of the week, and then we'll jump in the ads and we'll push on.
Sure. Quote of the week I thought would be a pretty good one. Going William Shakespeare here, because we're talking about kind of learning this offseason. It's pretty simple. The fool thinks that he's wise. The wise man knows that he's a fool. I think that's the biggest key for me as I've gotten older. When I was young, I thought you would reach a point where you knew everything, or I already did know everything. And as I've gotten older, you start to realize how much you don't know, how much you can still learn.
Yep. The ability to continue learning is, and we see this a lot in football. Joe and I on the other podcast, we talk about it all the time with that. You fall off the cliff of stupidity. Everybody thinks they have all the answers in the beginning, and then you quickly learn it's not quite so much. It's hard to keep learning, though. It's hard to not just settle in and think you've got it figured out. All right, man, real quick here, if you don't mind, just share some other ways a coach can make things simple for his staff and athletes. All right, if you're a live watcher, I'm sure you've been here before. If you are, we greatly appreciate you. We are going to pin in some ads here when it goes back to the podcast. We're going to jump right back out of it here. Appreciate that, Coach. As always, guys, listen to those ads. Go talk to Mark and guys over at Ace Sports. Get a board that fits for you today. I'm sure most of your seasons are coming to an end now, but Doug will be ready to work with you at Winning Edge Performance Analytics as we kind of get into the next year. It's a great tool to have in spring if you want your guys to kind of practice tagging film in a system as you go. It's a little more complicated than you think. It's not one of those things you want to buy the week of your first game and try to implement. You at least want to get some time on there and set it up for you and your system. Talk about the big stuff here today. We got clinics coming up, right, Coach? So I know January, right before AFCA, you're going to have a clinic. Talk to me about your clinic setup.
Yeah, we're excited about the gun tee clinics. Are going to be in 9 different places. These are very unique. They're meant for guys that run this offense or run a similar type of offense or want to learn more about this offense. I've had guys that kind of come in as spies that want to stop the offense. So it's kind of working both ways now, but basically we'll run all the way from Charlotte. We're going to be in Boston, going to Milwaukee and to Minneapolis this year. Going to be in Houston. We're going to be in Batesville, Arkansas as the national clinic. Going to be out west in San Diego and Sacramento. So all over the place. If you want to come learn a little bit about the gun tee, plenty of options, and we even have a virtual option. But basically, they're going to go. We'll talk a lot about clinics today, but they're going to go through and walk you through the way I think a clinic should be. But they are very specific. So if you're an air raid guy, probably not going to really want to come to this clinic. But if you want to learn about RPOs or how to run buck sweep, or you want to learn, how we do different things in our practice planning, I think it would be valuable.
The idea that you can't go to another clinic because you run a certain system and that bewilders me. If a person can put out a good product and the clinic's good, no matter what, even if I realize that it's very heavy in the gun tee system, but I can find so many reasons to go to these kinds of number one, defensively, you're going to start seeing it. It's spreading like wildfire. You better have a plan to stop it. So you need to go see what what are the inner workings of it actually doing. And 2, there's people still, I get texts and emails and stuff all the time about guys that are like, hey, we actually run Joe's system or what, we run something else, but we like the RPOs from Kenny's stuff. What can you tell me about it? I can tell you to, here's a couple things and go buy a book, man. You can mix and match. And I think my mentor is Kenny Ridley from South Central Oklahoma. And we kind of had a good talk the other day. And he was like, the best systems in the world is the ones you put together a few things that you like, that you know how to coach. That buying the gun tee system, I can't ever run it like you do. I can get a whole bunch out of it though, right? So, man, go to those clinics. I realize that an air raid guy maybe won't want to go, but to say he can't take anything out of it, well, that's pretty that's big words. Moving on to the books, I know that you have a new book coming out, or it is out, right? The 7.0,
Yep.
the Gun Tee 7.0, Amazon #1 bestseller, right? It's still up there.
Still, that's crazy to me. And it's always fun to see, and it's pretty neat, just kind of see them spread out. And then on my own website, they sell too, and I can kind of see where they go. And it's cool to see, watch it go overseas or watch it be sold wherever. So it's been pretty neat to see. It's spreading, like you said. I think the gun tee is spreading. A lot of guys will comment. I work kind of quietly with a lot of colleges And so it's pretty cool when guys will say, "Hey, did you know so and so?" And I just kind of go, "Oh yeah, I guess they figured out some things." So
Bought
it's
a
been
book.
pretty cool to kind of see it being run in several schools on Saturdays as well.
Yeah, there's I still call it the Kenny Simpson formation, that the tight end wing opposite a set of twins, and it's when it comes up, I know. Like, you can just tell the way they're running it. Not a lot of people are running that outside of the gun T system, right? It fits. So good stuff there, man. I think that's it. Did we cover everything? The books,
Yeah, yeah,
the clinics. All right, man. Let's jump into it here. So we're talking some program improvement today. Obviously, for most people, including both of us now, the off season is here. You get a little bit of time here before Christmas break, and then because we're on Thanksgiving break right now, or at least my school is. I'm sure the rest of you are. But my kiddo he got like 10 days or something for Thanksgiving break. I don't. It's wild. But it's a good time to like kind of set up a plan, right? You don't really need to jump into something immediately when you get back out of this Turkey Day break or whatever. It's okay to take some time, figure out what you're going to do, build out that big annual calendar, whatever it looks like. But I guess the first thing really has to be like your goals, right? So what are you really trying to do? I think it's a great time to fix those up. Kenny, kind of where are we at on goal? Decide on what our goals should be this year.
yeah. For me, I think it's what did we struggle with last year? Like, what are some things that I look back at the season that we didn't do as well as I would have liked us to do, and year to year that's going to be different. I think some years it just is the situation, maybe a situation you've never faced before. But I try to, while it's fresh, while the loss hurts most, I ask my coaches to write down, hey, like, give me two or three things you want to improve on this offseason, and give me one thing that I need to improve on this offseason for you to help you be better, because it's fresh and it stings and it's there. And if you don't do it, a lot of times you kind of get lost and just there's a ocean of football knowledge. And if you don't know where you're going, get on YouTube and 4 hours later, you don't know if you've learned anything, but you've seen a lot of stuff. And so I think it's important to kind of have a plan of action of here's where I need to try to really focus on, and a way to do that instead of just drowning yourself in all this information that's available. There's a lot of great information, but if you don't have a plan, you don't know what you're looking for, I don't know if it's really that helpful. And so to me, specifically this year, I mentioned earlier, last year we were 6-0 in one score games. This year we were 0-2. So number one thing for me is we got to be better in situational football. What did I do different this year that I didn't do last year? Or what can I add into it where we can be better? We lost 2 games this year. In both games, on the offensive side of the ball, we had the ball with a chance to retake the lead in the fourth quarter. And on the defensive side of the ball, we had the lead in the fourth quarter and we gave it up. And in the special teams game. So it affects the whole program. What did we do in those games that we can make sure we don't do next year? Because I don't like losing, and so we got to fix that stuff. So to me, that's a big priority, just because this year that laid out. And so there's a lot of different ways you can look at that. I know Chris Parker has a book I just bought off Amazon that has 100 situations that you don't think about. And so maybe that'll help me. Maybe it's myself just reflecting on what we did and coming up with my own plan. Maybe it's working with our coaches and our players and coming up with our own plan. But that's something that is specific for me. But I think every coach needs to kind of think about, hey, what was the number one issue we had? Maybe it was a cultural issue for you. Maybe it was your kids quit in high moments. Like for our kids, I don't have to worry about that, but I did several years ago where we would get down and we would hang our head. And even last year in the semifinal game, we got down, and at halftime, I remember going in going, what in the world? I feel like I'm warp speeded back 5 years to where our kids are done. Like they don't think we can come back. This year I walked in and our kids fought and hit a 99-yard touchdown with 3 minutes to go in what looked like a hopeless situation. So we worked on that stuff, and that helped. Now we got to work on the other stuff. I think every year, if you're a coach, a head coach, you need to work on how can I be better at communicating? What can I do to communicate with our staff and our players in a better way? Can we reach more people that way? Can we grow our staff more that way? And I think that's something I always have at the top of my list. I think you've got to always think about what we're going to do in the weight room. Ultimately, we can sit here and we can talk culture, we can talk scheme, and that stuff matters a lot. But if my players are bigger and faster and stronger, my odds of winning go up.
Yes.
So what am I going to do in that world to get where I want to get? We're blessed to have Price Holmes, who I think is the best strength guy in the country. We work specifically with our kids. I'm trying to kind of encourage him to do what I'm doing in the weight world with other programs. I think he would be great at it. But we're blessed to have that guy. You may not be blessed to have that guy, so you have to go find that stuff. Then how are you going to encourage your kids to want to be part of that? Like our kids love the weight room now. It wasn't always that way. How do we get to that point where they recognize this is a tool to get me better? And then, guys, I've written 44, 45 books. I'm still wanting to improve my knowledge of the game. And I think a lot of times the way you do that, we're going to hit the next question, but one of the ways you do that is you produce your own stuff. Like you come up with your own PowerPoint. You come up with your own Google Doc. You come up with your own practice script. You come up with your own. You can get ideas from other people, but if you really want to grow, don't use AI unless you want an example. You produce your own, whatever it is, in that world. So yes, I bought a book from Chris Parker. I'm probably going to use a couple other resources. And then guess what I'm probably coming up with this year? My own situational type of material. I may not sell it. It may just be something I keep for myself. But it's something I'm going to learn as deep as I can because I feel like in the most years, we're really good in that stuff. This year, we took a step back. Why was that? And I want to fix that.
I kind of, what you talked about there at the beginning is identifying where you're maybe made a mistake. Look, sometimes the ball just rolls the other way, right? There's not much you can do. You got pinned at the 1 yard line and you threw a 99-yard touchdown pass. Like sometimes, special teams wise, maybe you should have tried to catch that and get it out of there, but then you muff that and fumble it. And now they got the ball in the 10. Like there's so many ifs and ifs and buts or candies and nuts, right? Like it's just tough. Football is so wild because there's not a perfect way. You're never going to be perfect. Sometimes the ball just has to bounce your way a little bit. I had a really good conversation with Coach Brady Bradbury, who's been on the show before. I talked to him after his game, and man, they won a brutal defensive game this past weekend, and of course he was jazzed up because they were, moving on to the semifinals. But kind of what he first said was, I was like, dude, the defense was phenomenal. Twice the other team had the ball, and kind of like what you're talking about, Kenny. Like twice the team could have gone down and scored and taken the lead, and probably put the game away because neither offense had been doing much. And he was like, brother, when we built this thing years ago, right, we built it to hang our hats on the defense in big spots. So, like culturally, sometimes that's just where people are. And I know you've said it before, Kenny, right? Even though you're an offensive guy, you sell an offensive system, the Gun-T system, you still want playmakers to start on defense, and we'll make it right on offense, right? I don't want to call them leftovers because that's not true, but the kid that could start on either side goes on defense. We get the kid that might be a little more specialized or whatever. So it's hard to hang your hat and be like, man, I haven't done enough, because you're already trying to set your team up really well. I'm pretty interested to see where you go from here, because that is a tough situation to be in. I think improving in situational football is something that there's so many. You could never know them all. Something I've enjoyed the last couple of years, kind of being this consultant role with Bristow, is I get to be that guy, right? I jump on the Mike D podcast almost weekly now, and I talk ball with him. So I've got a lot of the rules figured out and I'd say it all the time, weaponize the rule book. I weaponize these situations. Like, hey man, here's what we're seeing. This is what we're coming down to. I don't know that every coach has one of those up in the booth going, hey dude, remember, we're trying to let the clock run here. Or, hey, we got timeouts, get them ready, right? Call them when you want. I'm not your boss, but just start thinking timeouts. Or They've not been good against, unbalanced stuff here. So whatever you got, let's lean into that. I don't know. It's just having a guy up in the booth that reminds you, just like that little fairy on your shoulder. Hey man, here's a good chance to do this, or we practice this, or we didn't practice this in the last couple of weeks. So start talking about it in the huddle, right? We're going to have to do the crazy win at the end of the game, toss it back 1,000 times play. Anyway, situational football is hard. It's good. Like, give a guy that task. I know you've said that before, Kenny, right? Delegate some things out. Give guys something so that they become your situational guy. What can we expect here? With your communication with staff and players, that one's it starts now. It really does, right? Setting up that communication, ensuring that no one's afraid to speak their mind or to tell you what they another good friend of mine called me this week, and they were playing over in the Arkansas playoffs, and he said he called me and was like, I don't like our defensive scheme this week. I don't like it. And he's not the DC. He said, I don't like our game plan. And he said he had went to the DC and told him, I don't like what we're trying to do here. I think they're going to take advantage. Here's what I think would work. And they said I had a really good conversation about it. And it turns out on Friday night, they ended up going to more of what my buddy said, because the DC, his eyes were kind of open. He's like, oh yeah, there's some things he hadn't thought of, right? There's a way to communicate that without blowing up in the stinking meeting room or trying to belittle your superiors in front of everybody. Went behind closed doors, like, hey, here's what and he showed up with a problem and an answer. And I think that's huge. But just ensuring that you have a staff that's okay. If your defensive line coach doesn't think that his guys can get done the thing that you just said you're going to do, he needs to be able to go, hey, man, I don't think we can do that. Here's a couple ways I think we can get the same idea done. We just do it a little bit different way. I think other goals for the offseason, for a lot of the people I'm around, it's building numbers, right? And you've got to start now. I am a huge proponent of the social media wave. I think kids want to be celebrated. They want their name and their picture out there for mama to click on and like on Facebook and grandma to see it. We're all on Facebook now. There's no more family photo albums. There's no more. It's just, everything's on Facebook now. So if you can produce a digital something that highlights your kids and shows how good they're doing, maybe it's their bench press PR, maybe it's their fastest they've ever ran a fly 10 or whatever guys are doing nowadays. Figure out some way to share the wealth, and I think other kids will join your program. There's more to success than just social media, obviously, but I think you have to start somewhere. And if you're a guy struggling for numbers, understand that kids want to be celebrated. And then it kind of comes back around. You got to let them go do other sports and keep celebrating them when they're in those other sports, right? You don't turn off football now. Stay after it. Keep celebrating those kids. All right. Let's jump into it. Achieving your goals, Coach. So how do you plan to kind of achieve those goals? I know we've brushed into this a little bit, but
yeah, no, I think there's several ways you can do it. I think the most obvious way is to get around other coaches. And so the best way to do that usually is a clinic. And that could be me and one other staff. Like, it doesn't have to be go to some big clinic. It could be call somebody. I may call Elkins. How did y'all develop that defense? It could be going to one school. But generally, the easiest way to do it is to go to a clinic, to go to somewhere where you can get the material you want. Don't just go to a random clinic because it's close to you. Research which one's going to have what's actually going to be able to help you. I think that's the biggest difference for us. There's a lot of options. You have kind of the mega clinics like the Glaziers and the Nike clinics and the whatever, and there's nothing wrong with those clinics. But research, are they going to have a topic that is going to help me? Am I about to drive 10 hours for, 45 minutes of what I need?
right.
Or is it better for me to maybe drive somewhere else and get what I need? And you're starting to see other clinics. I think the National Wing T Clinic, I'm speaking at that one in Pittsburgh. So if you're a wing T guy, that's probably going to have stuff that can help you. I spoke at Roger Holmes. He's done specialty type clinics. I think Joe Daniel's looking at putting together one too. There's a lot of guys that now have started to realize that's where it's at.
People
Specialty
want
clinics.
People want the specialized clinics nowadays, right? Like, I think, once again, nothing wrong with the Glaziers and the Nikes and but how many times is the three things you're wanting to go see all at the same time or what, right? So if you go to one that's specialized, I think it's up and coming. I didn't mean to cut you off, Coach.
No, you're good. My dog's walking around the office. So, no, I think big thing for me is those specialty clinics are good. That's why we do the gun T1. That's why we try to offer 3/4 swarm stuff at the national clinic. But doesn't mean you have to go to those. But I think that you're going to get more out of that, or sitting down with a staff that maybe runs the same stuff you do or similar stuff that you do, because you can go more in depth. That may not be an option, and if that's not an option, the beautiful thing is we have this thing called the internet. And there are a lot of those clinics available online, or CoachTube does a great job of producing lots of courses you can get specifically on what you want. So there's lots of ways you can do it. There's books. Obviously I've written books and other guys have written good books. And so there's lots of different materials that are out there. I think you better start with a plan, or you go on Amazon now, there's probably 3,000 coaches books. Which one do I pick? Well, which one are you trying to get better at? Do you have some kind of think about your mind as kind of a Google search filter? Like, what do I want to look for? Then go look for that and get what you need. And you can do it through clinics, courses, books, whatever that might look like. Again, I think producing materials, your own, or finding someone else who's already produced something that you can build off of. If you I don't know if you can see on my shelf, you look over this way on my shelf back there, a bunch of coaching books that I read when I was young and I grew up. Okay. I'm not Lou Holtz, not at all, but I got some stuff from his book that I could use. I thought, well, this will work. I don't have those athletes, but I've got these things I can do. There's a lot of great materials out there. I think this generation has done a better job of producing materials for future generations than anyone's have. I think you write down your own thoughts. Be careful with that one. Make sure you're writing down what you want in a way you can use. I used to, as a young coach, I'd go to like a Glazier clinic, great clinic, have a notebook full of notes. None of it was the same stuff. Couldn't use any of it.
Right.
Instead of writing down one or two things I can do, and I can use that. Like, I think it's important that you start siphoning through, what can I do? What can we do? Siphon out the stuff we can't do, because there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff you're going to see this offseason. Like mesh is a great play. Are you willing to invest the time required to run mesh? Buck sweep is a great play. Are you willing to invest the time you need to run buck sweep? Whatever blitz or coverage you see, it's probably a great blitz or coverage. Are you willing to invest the time you need to run that correctly? Because if you try to run everything, anything you do is going to suck. You got to be good at something. And so I think that's important when you're going to these clinics, siphoning through all that. Okay. I also think you need to look at meeting with your own staff. That's something we're going to do. It might be through a text. It might be through Zoom. A lot of my guys coach other sports. So it's not going to be always some formal whatever, but I would like to meet with everybody on my staff once a month. It might be just me and them because they're coaching soccer or wrestling or whatever it is. It might be 10 minutes. Go out to eat. It might be whatever. We need to continue to build that relationship and continue to build on improving. What are we doing to improve? What can I do to help you? Those are the two main questions. What are you doing to get better? How can I help you? Those are what I want to know from those coaches. Weight room's huge. There's no way around it. You've got to get stronger. You got to get faster. The game is all about speed. Defensively, we had one kid on the field over 200. We had two kids over 200 pounds on the field. We're the number 3 defense in the state. We just lost to the number 1 defense in the state. I think they had 2 kids on the field over 200 pounds. They were both playing linebacker. They weren't even playing D-line. The game is about speed. How do I get speed on the field? How do I get strength with that speed so that we can make plays we need to make? So weight room is important. Got to figure that out. I'm not the expert in there, so I go hire really good guys.
Yep.
What's your answer?
Sorry, I caught me in the middle of a coffee drink there. It's a really good point that you pointed about the weight of the kids and the game being about speed at this level. I know we watched that. People that are watching live that are OU fans, we watched Speed D fail miserably at the collegiate level for OU a few years ago, but obviously a completely different thing. But yes, you've got to get It ain't body size. It's athletes, right? You got to get kids who are not one-dimensional on the football field. You got to get athletes at every position. And if you don't have them, you got to develop them. The weight room is great. It's a great place to start. I think it's the great equalizer, right? If your program doesn't have a weight room or it's a subpar weight room, that's what you need to start. Don't worry about turf or an indoor. You don't need that crap. You need a weight room. You need a thing that actually matters at the end of the day, right? You can go out and paint lines for the rest of your life, and your team hasn't benefited or lost anything from the guy down the street with turf. But if you ain't got a weight room, you're never going to catch him. Another thing I think you need to start thinking about improving those kids. You talk about speed, improving agility. I know you're a big feed the cats guy, right? With Tony Holler. We do the athletic speed and movement with Del Basquette. Both great programs, both out there trying to help you get your kids faster, right? In a variety of ways. And I think the programs are so different, you honestly could use both. And you're going to get something different out of both of those programs. Where Tony Holler is that getting your kids super fast through a mentality. We have the same mentality at Athletic Speed Movement, but ours is more of the agility and between the tackles and getting your defensive end to put a foot in the ground and run back and retrace on a screen, stuff like that. So I think you could look into both of those programs. Coach, I don't think I've ever met with the staff in the off season, and it could just be because I'm always the outlier. It's no secret that this was my first year to be with the same team for consecutive years. So perhaps that's why, but it's meeting once a month. That's not a big ask. And it does kind of help you keep guys, I guess, kind of pushing forward, right? Like make sure they're learning, because I'm sure it's easy I don't know. It's so the different thing with me is that it's hard for me to tell what's normal, because I've been podcasting or self-learning or whatever the entire time I've been in football, but a lot of it so that I can come onto a show and talk about a scheme I've never ran, or increasing my leadership skills or whatever. So if you're not doing that, I think it's imperative that you have to go out. But I'm sure a lot of guys aren't, right? They may not look at football until spring ball starts and they're relearning the playbook again or whatever.
And the way I think you approach that, like the way I've tried to approach it, is I'm going to give them the opportunity. You come up with 2 or 3 things you need to improve on. There probably should be. I've got good coaches, but not always are you going to get this. They should be their own harshest critic. I've got to do X, Y, and Z. Well, guess what? If they don't come to me with what they need to improve on, then I'm going to tell them, and it won't be nice. Here's what you need to get better at, because that's my job, and I've got to get better at stuff too. I mean, it's not a you suck and I'm good. That's not the conversation.
Right.
But the conversation is, if you don't have things you think you need to get better at, let me show you a few, and it's better if it probably comes from you, because now you've decided what you wanted, instead of asking me to critique you because I'm going to, and so, and I want you to critique me. Like it's not a I'm better. It's just we're all going to get better. And if you're not wanting to get better, you need to get gone, because that's not how we run things here.
Last little bit before we move on here. I think this is one of those places that can be overwhelming, especially if you look at it right now. Maybe you just lost out of the playoffs, and if you got this deep, your improvement list is probably a lot smaller. Maybe your season was really done by week 6. Kenny's fighting a fly over there. I think he's got to go find him a fly swatter. But maybe, week 6, you were eliminated from the playoffs and you're just trying to survive. Maybe you had an 0-10 season, right? If you've got one of those, it can look overwhelming. I think what's imperative right now is that you take every piece of what you need to improve. Is it stopping the run game? How many ways can you develop a better run game on defense, right? Is it weight room, defensive line play? We got to get better at fundamentals, linebacker reads. Do I have enough safeties in the box? Am I trying to play some cover 4 every snap and people are just running it down my throat because I can't match hats? Break whatever it is you got to do down to the smallest pieces so that you can actually consume that and fix those things, right? It's kind of the old, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Don't let this get overwhelming. Yes, I think you need to see the big picture, the broad strokes. What's everything that we need to fix? But break that down and build out a plan to fix them little at a time, right? You can't go to a Glazier clinic and set in an offensive line, a defensive line, a linebackers, a wide receivers drills, all those clinics in one weekend and go home and think, all right, we're fixed. You're right. You're going to have to spend some time. You're going to have to find the specialists that do this, but then you have to fix it over time as well. It might even be multiple seasons. Talk about culture. Right? Culture is always a big one right now, man. We had, you said it earlier, Kenny, like, kids were quitting the first time that, we gave up a touchdown and now their hats are hanging. And man, like you're not going to fix that by next season. Probably it's going to take a little while, but you better start. You can't not start just because it's going to take a while. Just understand that you've got to improve little over time here. So just an adjustable schedule that you can actually go out and make some fixes.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of add into that. I think a lot of it's too evaluating where your program is. Like if you're 0-10, you're just trying to figure out, okay, how do we beat these bottom 2 or 3 teams that we've got to beat to make an improvement? Like that's what you're competing against, because you're competing against yourself. We were 0-10. How can I win these winnable games?
Yeah.
If you were 5-5, how can I get to 8, get us in a better spot? Where we were last year, semifinals, there's only one way to go from there. I mean, like that's where you're now looking at, how do we beat the elite of the elites? And like, you got to know where your program is. Like if you were 0-10 and you had 4 games that were, at least somewhat competitive, those are the games you need to focus on to get to that step. Then if you were 4-6 or 3-7 or 5, whatever it was, how do I get the next 3? And then you kind of build from there. It's not realistic to think you're going to go 0-10, 10-0. It happens, but it's usually small steps in the correct direction.
Yep. Love it. All right, man, let's jump in the last part here and kind of what do you look for in a clinic? So, obviously you've got some clinics that you're going to put on. I'm helping Joe set one up. So if you guys are looking to get into the 425, I think we're going to have a couple clinics for the 425 this year. And we'll get more information out as those come along. But what should guys be looking for? We talked about it earlier. You can go to Glazier and you can fill up a notebook and not do any of it. So how do we make sure that we're going to one that actually helps us improve our program?
Yeah, I mean, I actually model a lot of the clinics that I do off of guys like Tony Franklin. He put on one of the best clinics I've ever been a part of, and I attended clinics left and right, and there's good things from everybody. So I think that it's really what you need. But here's kind of what we try to do at our clinics and what I think has been helpful for other people. Number one, it's topic specific. Like it's going to be over what I need to learn. We're going to try to offer something. If you're an offensive line coach, or you're a you're a guy who want to learn RPO game, or you're a quarterback coach, we're going to try to have offerings that work for that guy, things that can help them get better. I think that the topic matters, and it's stuff that we're going to be able to do with our athletes. It's really cool to hear, Nick Saban talk, or really cool to hear whoever the next hot coach is talk, or they bring in the D-line coach from the Jets, or they bring in the guy from there. And that's really fun to go listen to. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're probably not going to be able to do that with your 14, 15, 18-year-old kids, unless you're at some place that has a bunch of kids that could play in the NFL. So it's neat that you heard that guy. You don't have those guys. So you have to modify and adjust. So it's probably, I've always found better. I love hearing a D3 college coach talk, or I love hearing a high school coach talk, not at an elite school, but at a school that has the same demographics that I have. Because now we're speaking the same language. I'm not hearing a guy that's got different tools than I have. Like you're not going to go learn how to sprint from an elephant. You're going to go learn how to sprint from a cheetah, somebody who matches what I want to get to. So I think it's important you kind of give those guys a little bit of, those are the guys you need to go listen to. Number 2, I think, is ideas that fit what we have. Like it doesn't have to be exact, Dan. You already mentioned that. You don't have to run the gun tee, but we run RPOs. This fits what we're already doing. Like, where do you think I got the RPOs from? Like, I got the RPOs from guys that run spread. But it fit what we did. We pulled out a new RPO that we hadn't run all year Friday. and hit it twice, once for almost a big touchdown because it fit our system. All it was basically the old dagger concept, but we're running it as an RPO to our X receiver. Okay, well, I didn't invent that. We got it from somebody, but it fit what we were doing. Okay, you're still reading the same guy at quarterback. We're just making a little modification here on the routes. Everybody good on this? Put it in. I think we put it in a couple weeks ago, but we pulled it out Friday. All right. So that stuff worked. It fit our system. Play action stuff from the gun. I'm always looking at different guys running gun play action because we run play action from the gun. What concepts are they running? So we took one of those, held in our back pocket, pulled it out Friday night. We ran old school waggle. We just switched the routes of the Y and the B because our B is pretty good. We hit them twice on it because we knew that would carry the vertical, bring them underneath. It's not new stuff.
Right.
It's stuff that fits what we're already doing. So I can stick that in on a Monday as a quick adjustment. We spend 2 minutes on it and it's in. Not, hey guys, we're going to put in mesh this week. That's probably not going to work.
So are you sure?
Yeah, it's probably not going to work. I mean,
it worked on Saturday,
Coach. Yeah. So it's one of those deals where it fits what we do and I can make it work with what we do. Instead of going into a clinic going, we're going to do this and that and this and that, does it fit what our kids can do, and does it fit what we're already kind of wanting to do defensively as well? Okay. Then we look for connections at like clinics. I'm looking for dudes that run the same kind of stuff I run. That's one of the things we love about the gun tee is everybody in there runs it. So a lot of times you can tune me out if I'm boring and talk to the dude next to you because he's running the same stuff you're running. So can I go to a clinic, find guys that are running what I'm running where I can talk to those guys throughout the year? That's why we do socials and we do different things so guys can visit with other people running what they're running. I think that's just as important as a clinic is because now you got a relationship there where y'all can bounce ideas back and forth off each other. That's why we have a Facebook group for the gun tee. That's why we have an email list for the gun tee. That's why we have that stuff. Is it's not a one-time deal. It's something I can go to and I can continue to build off of that. So that's why we do what we do. I think player demo at this point is the best thing we do at our clinics. And Daniel, you've been to a few of them. I think that's where you see I can get up here and give you a PowerPoint. I can show you a play. I can talk about this. I can talk about that. Come watch me do it with kids.
Right.
And watch, oh, that's what he meant when he said this. That's what he meant when he said that. Oh, it's really that simple. Those are the things we want guys to walk away learning is it's that simple. Here's the little nuances in the words we say to correct something. Here's a drill not done perfect, and here's how we're going to fix it.
Yep.
And that's how you learn. So player demos, I think, are big. You could obviously go watch somebody practice if you want to. I would, again, would caution to make sure you go watch somebody who's got similar players that you do. Watching Ohio State practice was really cool. We did that a couple of years ago. Really fun. I took my son to it. Had a great time. Why don't we practice like that? Well, son, did you see the 45 coaches they had setting up the drills and the guys they had going one way? So you've got to be careful. It's good to get an idea, but it's not necessarily something you can always emulate at a college. But if I can go watch player demos at a clinic, or I can go watch a drill, hey, I tell you what, that drill would be perfect for our inside backers. Again, be careful. Make sure it fits your system. But I think watching the actual drill, and there's so much stuff now on CoachTube. I've got stuff on my website where you can find drills that should help what you're trying to run. I think there's a lot of stuff available for that. So that's kind of what I'm looking for when I go to a clinic. And then for me, it's a bonding time with your staff. Like, if you're taking your staff, let's go out to eat that night. Let's get together right before the clinic starts and talk about our goals for the clinic. Let them go have fun. Guys, it's a clinic. Go have a good time. But we're going to walk away with something we can use.
Absolutely. I can't really add to that, man. You kind of crushed it there. I highly recommend stuff that you do, and then send your defensive staff to stuff that you need to stop. I think, but I see defense as a very simple creature. I think just playing your fundamentals and let your kids read and fly around real fast is kind of the key to defense. You may be a guy that's trying to twist and stunt and blitz and wreak havoc, and that's a different style, right? Do what you got to do. I'm one that I want to go learn what offenses are doing so that I can stop it. And I guess it kind of brings to a point, like they say that if you want to be a great offensive coordinator, go be a DC for a while, right? Or go be on the defensive side, because you're going to learn what gives them fits. What are they really trying to do? And vice versa, right? If you want to be a good DC, go coach on the offense for a little while and see how they're installing. How do they have to communicate? What are their hurdles they're having to get over? And so, that might be a part of it here too. Just get to a clinic that's the opposite side of the ball, see what makes those guys tick. I know there's some really successful teams up here in the Tulsa area that are inviting coaches in every offseason. They want the best of the best in the surrounding area to come in and just teach us your scheme. Teach us how you do things. How are you game planning for the week, so that they can kind of battle that, right? They can combat it with their own scheme or their own weekly plan or whatever. So, and just keep learning. I think that's the biggest thing to look for in a clinic, is a place you can actually go to learn. I don't care, what it is. Make sure you can take something home from it. All right, Coach, situation of the week, and we'll get out of here. I know you're running low on time here. We got a late start because I slept in on Thanksgiving break. So, defense coordinator is being courted for other jobs. He's had some requests to better his quality of life in your program, but your admin has not been receptive of them. What's the next move here?
The defense coordinator's courted other jobs. Basically, he's wanting more money. I mean, essentially, that's kind of quality of life. That's how I would kind of read into that, because he's probably assuming he's happy with where he is with you. It's not the job, so then it has to essentially be money. And I think it's okay as coaches to talk about that, because we don't get paid enough. So it's okay to bring that up. And your admin has not been there. I've been there a bunch. That's part of it. It's part of the job, and to me, there's not a lot you can do there. I know that in times before, I've gone to our admin and talked about, hey, what if we use a booster club and maybe came up with a little bit extra money here, and I was able to give it to our assistants, not to me, but to our assistants, as kind of a bonus for doing a good job. Some admins are going to be like, okay. Some admins are going to say no, it just depends kind of where you are. I think a lot of times I've gone to our admin before and asked for different things. Okay, we can't get him money. Could we get him an extra prep period? We can't get him money. Could we get him in junior high football because he wants to be around these kids, help develop them? We can't get him money. Could we get him out of the second sport he's having to coach because he's exhausted? So there's lots of ways you can try to go around that and work it. I think it's important that, one, if you're in this situation, you probably were successful. Like if you're in this situation where your DC is getting other opportunities, you were probably successful, but I think you need to be very self-aware. If you were successful, you have the right to go meet with your admin. I meet with our admin at the end of every year. And the years we've done well, I've got a nice little request list. They don't always get hit, but you ask, because usually it has nothing to do with me. It's got all to do with keeping our assistants, upgrading our facilities, whatever that might be. It's okay to ask for yourself too. I'm not saying it's not okay, but usually that's the last thing. If I ask for anything, that's where it's going to be on the bottom, but if you went 4-6 and they don't expect that, you got to be self-aware. That might not be a great time to ask for things. Like you just got to kind of be aware of, where am I? Am I in good standings? Do they want to keep me? Then if you're at that place, you have those conversations. If you're not, be careful. You start asking for things and you start to become a problem and you weren't real successful, that's probably not a place you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Excellent stuff. Let's close out here real quick. I want to make sure you guys are getting back over to acesports.com or email mark.bridges@acesports.com. talk to Mark. This is a great time to get them in, start that conversation with your admin, let them kind of start probing the community and see where they could get some funds coming your way. Mark.bridges@acesports.com. Get a board up, and I talked about celebrating kids, man. There's nothing better than throwing up highlight reels as you run out the tunnel or whatever the situation has to be there. And then obviously Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Go talk to Doug. Get ready for this next season. We talked about books, social media. I'm at Coach Chambo OK. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. And then, of course, jump over to the YouTube. Kenny, you are everywhere FB Coach Simpson, right? I mean, everything is FB Coach Simpson. Pretty easy to find there. If you jump on the YouTubes or fbcoachsimpson.com, go check out the Gun T stuff, or the Twitter and Facebook, all at FB Coach Simpson. We want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We'll hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.